She says, Robert, I've never experienced nothing like this in my life. I'm in another world. It's magic. You know, really, if you get in a lowrider, any car, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000, 25, it's magic.
Yeah, but if you get in a 76 Caprice and go down the road, you're going to get that look, or a Grand Prix. But when you're in something that's that old, a bomb, it's like you got to do your homework and think, what is that? You got to double neck it sometimes to see a bomb pull up. And then in front of a restaurant, just the gangster, the aura of the
Yeah.
whole thing. It's beautiful. Hey, everybody, I'm Joe Ray. This is the Wired Down Show. Lowriding is like a religion. There's faith, there's hope, there's love, there is charity sometimes. So, in this special edition, we brought a pastor. He's going to represent all of lowriding, but mainly bombs because he owes one.
Yes.
Robert, go ahead and tell everybody who you are, and then we'll find out what you're all about.
My name is Robert Frias.
Robert, you have what they call is a bomb in lowriding. It's a
Yes.
special bomb, though. It's a 1946 Chevy Fleet Master.
Yes, it is.
You've seen this guy in all the lowrider shows. He travels everywhere. We're going to get into your early days just to start the show so we could get our flow going here. But what got you into lowriding in your early days? What was your, I always say influence. What bug bit you? What was the drug you needed to score? And then, we'll get up to what you do today. So,
What got me into it is, as a young boy, like 12 years old, seeing the guys on Whittier Boulevard driving cars,
mhm.
and then everybody just driving lowriders. I was fascinated with it, and I always wanted to do something like that. So, after 14 years old, I started buying cars and started building them. And today I own the 46 Chevy.
Where are you originally from?
Pico
What city?
Rivera.
Pico Rivera?
Yes.
So Whittier Boulevard was a hop skip for you, just down
Hop,
the,
skip,
down
and a
the
jump.
street. Did you have different types, traditionals and bombs when you first started?
Yes, I had a 69 lifted all the way around. Had
Hideaways?
pardon me?
Hideaways?
Hideaways.
Yeah, retractables?
Yes. And I had Merlin roll in the trunk.
Uh-huh.
And then I had a 74 Monte Carlo,
Nice.
and that was lifted all the way around.
Yeah.
I had a 72 Monte Carlo lifted all the way around. I had a 48 Chevy. I had a 47 Chevy.
Uh-huh.
I had a 53 truck. I had a 56 truck.
Are these all in your later stages as you got older? You just started shifting into bombs more?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started in like the 60s,
Yeah.
63, 64s.
You
And
had
then-
those too?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Then it went from 69s. And then for some reason, I got fascinated with the older cars, more in the bomb era.
They're more gangster styles, so you have to have a different type of persona to have a bomb, right?
Exactly.
I know I
It is-
just talked
yeah.
about that the other day. My brother loved bombs.
Yes.
I didn't see myself in one. I like them too.
Mm.
And if I did have one, well, there's always going to be the Cadillacs out there too, but they're interesting, but they're a pain in, if I can say so, that you're a
Yes.
passer, a pain in the ass. You're talking 75 years old now.
Yes.
So you got into bombs and you had all of those bombs. That's cool. Your first just going down Whittier Boulevard or seeing all the cars that were down there, that's what kind of changed you and you had to get into that, huh?
Yeah, it changed me because from looking at the 60s, and then years later, maybe 8 to 10 years later, I started seeing more bombs around.
Mhm.
And then in Pico Rivera, which we grew up, more people were driving bombs at the time. And it just fascinated because you said something. Bombs, a car describes somebody. And for me, a bomb described more me. I liked the older style bombs and a more gangster style.
Yeah.
And I've always liked gangster movies. So for me to get a bomb, you driving a bomb, you just feel you're back at 75 years ago, and it's just more of a bomb era,
Right.
more gangster type.
Do you ever see yourself even today going back to some of those cars, 60s or 70s, any of those
Oh yeah,
lowriders?
definitely.
You like them still?
Yeah, I still like them.
If you built another car, what would it be?
I would love to build a 62 convertible.
Yeah. A lot more money too, man. Well, it depends because when we talk about bombs and accessories and all and the hunt and the whole thing, it could take you years to get a part. You know, whereas, you know, the 60s, they have repops.
Exactly.
You can go on OfferUp or eBay and find your parts in a couple hours. You'll find them networking, right? But no, you've got to go all over, even back east as far as what, Pennsylvania,
I've been to
to go
Hershey,
to
Pennsylvania
you have
twice
just to find parts.
to just to find parts. I do a lot of traveling,
Does that make
ministering.
you stronger doing that, building a bomb, that you have to go through that?
Well, somebody told me it's a treasure hunt.
Right,
So when you find the treasure, it's like looking for a diamond in a field.
right.
So when you look for that diamond in a field, which is impossible, when you find it, you found something tremendous. When you're searching for car parts, a 75-year-old car, when we built our car, we were geared to no aftermarket. We were geared to original. So my mind was set out wherever I had to go, whatever I had to do to find it, then we found it. And it took years to find it. And still, I buy parts today once a week at least. I travel. When I travel, I can go different places, and if I find a part, I'll buy it. And so that's how we build our car.
And with all your friends, are you in a club? Or you ever been in a club before?
Not necessarily.
But I mean, when you're out there hunting around, you know what value is in certain parts. You'll buy them anyways
Oh,
because
I'll buy
somebody will
them.
need them,
Yeah,
or it's an investment. You can always later on sell them.
it's money in the bank
Right.
because when I met my wife,
Uh huh.
she knew nothing about parts or bombs.
Hmm.
I took her to a show and I sold parts there, and she turned to me and goes, "I thought that was junk." You know what I mean? And she goes, "Oh, I stopped selling." And she
Right.
goes, "No, no, don't stop selling." I go, "We're done." She goes, "Why?" I go, I sold what I needed to sell. We can go home now." So now she's learning that, wow, there's money in old parts. So when I hunt, she doesn't have a problem me hunting because she knows that I'm going to buy it either to put on my car or buy it and just, I have parts in my whole garage. I got shelves full of parts. And when I go to show, I sell parts, and I sell parts to different people that need 30s, 40s, a little bit of 50s.
It's a different animal from the 60s and 70s cars. Putting them together, because when you go out, even those cars are what, 40, 50 years old today. When you go out and you decide, you know, I'm going to build a 73 Monte Carlo,
Mhm.
you don't see them too much. They were Diamond Dozen. You don't see them too much anymore. But when you look at it and you find one, you can see the investment and time you're going to have to put into it to finish that car.
Exactly.
There is a light at the end of the
Hmm.
tunnel. With a bomb, it's way different though, right? And you have to and you have to be careful with what type of bomb, whether it's a Packard, Pontiac, Chevy,
Yes.
Cadillac. It's not just only the cost, it's can you complete the car, right? It's way different from building a Riviera or a Cadillac.
Yeah, like you said, Monte Carlo, 73 Monte Carlo, you can build one 5 months because
Right.
the parts are there.
Yeah.
You get into 30 or 40,
Yeah.
you have to be careful. And when you're building a 30 or 40 to get the parts, it's almost difficult at times. You have to really search 100% more than a 73 Monte Carlo because it's 75 years old, 80 years old. There's not that many around.
True. So a lot of guys, when they pick their project build, they're very careful what they're going to try and do.
It's better to
Unless,
buy a 30 or 40 come out somewhat complete
right.
because when you find one in a backyard that's disassembled, you're going to have to buy another car complete to build that. It's not that easy.
The cost of some of these cars, the value of the bombs, 30s, 40s, 50s. Um, everybody out there knows what they cost,
Hmm.
from the wind wings to the knob to pull the hood. There's always going to be a dollar mark on that to what they
Exactly.
cost. If you went out and bought a Packard today, if you get one fully loaded, it costs this much. If it's half of the parts on there, you got to go find them. It's still going to cost you the same at the end of the road, but just more time to find them.
It's good, exactly the way you said it.
Wow.
Sometimes you can find old friends of mine that have a Packard
Yeah.
and they're looking for certain parts. They can't find them, and when they find them, there's no price limit on it because you need that part. If they made it and they sold it for $10, and somebody wants 1,000 for it, and you want it to complete the car, you got to pay $1,000.
So you grew up in Pico Rivera, Whittier Boulevard, just up the street. The lowrider influence was all over that place. You go into Montebello,
Yes.
East LA, here comes Boyle Heights. and it was a great thing. I think back in your time, they opened up the boulevard again. They tried it one more time before they close it again. Um, Growing up in Pico, like I said, how did you, in your journey in life, how did you get to become a pastor?
You know what? My journey in life at 12 years old. My
Hmm.
dad died at 29 years old. So I never had a father figure in my life, even at 66 years old.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is to have a father. So at 12 years old, I started getting busted. And by the time I was 22, I had overdosed 3 times in my life. I was stabbed like 22 times. Um, what comes with the gang life?
Yeah.
And in 81, um, I was fighting two cases at the time, and I knew nothing about God at all. We've stabbed people in different things. And what happened was in 81, it's hard for me to explain it, but the best I can explain it is something happened. And it's kind of funny I tell this story because you'll probably know exactly where it's at. Paramount Boulevard and Washington Boulevard.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm right in the corner, making a left on Washington to get on Paramount. I heard a voice. It said, Robert, where do you want to spend eternity? I heard that voice. I don't know what it was, but like maybe a month later, 2 months later, my homegirl passed by my house, and she knows I was fighting these cases, and she came in and she said, "Hey, I'm here to help you." Well, what are you here to help me for? You need to come to church with me. Make a long story short, I went to church with her. I was selling dope at the time, and I put dope money in the basket, and I walked out. Something drew me back the next day. I went back the next day. I never cried a day in my life. And after church was over, they said, "Would you want Jesus in your heart?" I go, "No, my homegirl invited me here. I've been sharing this story for over 40 years, brother." And they said, "Can we pray for you?" I need all the prayer I can get. They took me down, they prayed for me, and right on the spot, I could explain it to you. A tear came to my eye, and I started like hyperventilating. They all got around me and said, "God's touching you." I don't know what's going on. I'm crying. I got up, and they said, "God touched your life." That day, I got up and I went home, and there was a knock on my door. And it was one of the guys from the neighborhood that we grew up with.
Hmm.
He said, "What happened to you?" I go, "I don't know what happened. I just know Jesus touched my life. I know nothing about this." He said, "You'll never make it." And from that day forward into today, from 1981 to 2025, I've been on this road, Christian road, and I became a preacher probably 5 years after 1981. And they just asked me, "Would you like to go share a testimony at this prison?" Okay, I go share with them. "Would you like to share this testimony at this church?" In different places.
You were too young when you went to jail and all that, right?
Yes.
Juvenile
Yeah. Juvenile
delinquent.
hall,
Yeah.
county jail.
Right. Nothing long term though.
No, nothing long term.
So you went to the prisons and
Yeah, they asked me, "You come and share your testimony," because there's guys that like there with you. It was kind of hard first because I have two felonies on my record and plus other stuff.
uh-huh.
So to get cleared, it had to get cleared to the special. The warden had to clear me to go there. So he cleared me, and I would go in with the church, and I would share with them what God exactly what I'm sharing here with you now here. And men would come up to me, and women, because I went to both, and I still do today, come up to me and said, "If you can make it, I can make what? How did this happen?" And I tell them the story what I'm telling you. 81, I'm messed up. I, even today, I'm 66 years old. I'm a total illiterate. I can't spell I couldn't spell my first name at 21 years old. I just bought my wife a car the other day, and I'm at the dealer. She had to fill the paperwork out because I can't read and write. And the lady that's filling the paperwork out says, "Robert, what do you mean you can't read and write?" I said, "Ask my wife. She knows." She goes, "He can't read and write. He's illiterate." I can't spell Raiders. I can't spell original on your shirt. Um, I can't spell Al, whatever that word, original lowrider. I can't spell that. So wire down. I can spell down, but wire I can't spell wire.
So, and this is the way you've been your whole life like that since 81.
Since '81. Yeah,
So the only education you really have was God
God.
telling you, I'll show you your world's going to turn into a pulpit.
Yes.
And I need you as an example, and this
Hmm.
is what you're going to do. So he chose you.
Yeah, and he's been good because without an education, I got a job.
Yeah.
I worked with a union 22 years. You know, and then I got hired on from Living Waters out of Chino as one of the pastors of the church there, and that was like 18 years ago. They hired me. So for 18 years, I traveled to Mexico. I traveled to Mazatlan. I traveled to New Mexico, Arizona, Peru, Mississippi, Alabama. Today I was in CRC. Monday I'm in Chino. So I travel different places and share Northern California, Chalchilla, VSP, CCWF, Tehachapi, um, Porterville. I travel all over the place sharing the word of God in prisons.
Wow. I know we've talked a lot of times, but not like this.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't even know what to say here, but if you can't read, what a story. But you're a teacher now,
Yes.
and you've gone through life. And this is a lowrider show, so to speak. You've gone through life everywhere you've gone. I mean, you've tried to touch other people. You've helped a lot of people.
Yes.
Probably saved quite a few
Yes.
in your whole journey.
Hmm.
That's really that's amazing.
I just got a guy that got out of prison today, brother,
Uh-huh.
after 38 years. I've been with him for 38 years ministering to him. He just got out this morning. In church, an ALWOP is somebody that's life without parole. Joanna sits right next to my wife.
Hmm.
36 years in prison at ALWOP, never to come home. She's going to die in prison. And she sits right next to my wife today. And she goes back in the prison with me.
Wow.
Yeah. But in our church, there's a lot of men and women that I help when they got out. And my job was to help men and women that I just had some good people around me at the time, Joe, that taught me a little finances that without reading and writing, it was hard for me.
Why was it hard not being able to read? Is it you didn't go to school?
No, I didn't go to school. I stood in the park in Pico Rivera just sniffing paint. You know, years ago you sniff paint and get loaded in the park, and
Yeah.
education wasn't me. So going down the wrong path. And when I gave my life to the Lord, one thing I did say, and my wife's amazed. Robert, you could read the Bible. She goes, I'm a businesswoman, and you know more than I know because you
You
could read
you
the
can
Bible.
read the Bible
I
though.
could read the Word of God.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing how all
No,
this
no, no,
works.
no. I mean, it's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I came to church myself right here. But hopefully I don't get into a confessional with you right
Yeah.
now. But um, the gang life, and it's car clubs, gang life, high school, the football team. You know, you all back each other up. Wherever you're from, you represent and you back it up. There's turfs everywhere.
Exactly.
Whereas a car club plaque
Hmm.
or down Pico Rivera, there's a lot of turfs that are down there. And when you get into that game, and it is survival, and once you get into deep, there is no turning back. When you had the when you made that left hand turn, divine intervention, um, you got to be pretty strong because it's all you know. And if you're not going to school, you could care less about school. Kicking back on a park bench, that I mean, there were other, I guess, interventions too. Hey, you need to be on this side. This happened to this guy. This happened. We got to go take care of business tonight. 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's go. I mean, did you get any of that?
Yeah, I got in that. I made money
And when
selling
oh,
dope.
he's with the Lord now. I mean, come on. You're gonna get called all
Yeah.
kinds of names, and then next thing you know,
When I gave my life to the Lord,
they're after you.
um, I went to the neighborhood and I told them, "Hey, I'm done. I'm not this. I'm out now. I'm done." And I walked away clean. They had no problem with me. All they just said is, if you're going to serve God all the way, because if something happens, you come back, then you're going to have to deal with us.
Obviously, You did your due diligence when you were in the gang.
Yes.
You took care of business
Yeah.
and all that, so I can
And I still
understand
talk
that.
to them today.
Yeah,
You know, my wife says, Robert, why do they call you?
yeah.
It's family. You know, I'm there to help them.
Have most of them grown out of that? Because you
Yes.
almost never
Actually,
do.
some are preachers today.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So we've helped a lot of men and women out, and there's like the guy that got out of prison today. He's my homeboy after
Hmm.
38 years. But what did I do? I called the neighbor and told me so and so's getting out today, and we prayed for him yesterday before he got out of prison. And the awesome thing about this is when we prayed for him, one of the rival gang members actually prayed with us for him to leave. But that's just only an act of God,
Right.
you know. And then we do take our cars into the prison. You know, we have like rallies in the prison. We take bombs, we take Harleys, and we get the guys out. And it's another ways of ministering to them cars, Harleys. Who are you going to get out? Men love cars,
Right.
guys like Harleys, so they'll all come out.
Yeah, I think we went as a club one time. Well, actually, three times. We went to Chino Prison, and some of the prisoners there would make the awards, and they would pick out the best car, and we'd be out there, and it was good, man. It felt like going to church because you hope that, man, nobody wants to spend 1 hour. I've been in jail before 13 days, and I thought, wow, I wish I had those 13 days back, just
Mhm.
for some stupid stuff, right?
Yes.
But you don't want anybody, even in a holding tank for warrants for hydraulic lifts and stuff like that. You don't want to be there overnight or anything, and your parents are all worried. And I mean, everybody goes through that once they
Yes.
go to jail. Everybody hurts when that happens. But for the fact of you to go there and preach and give them hope is what it's all about. Maybe they can change. And I think everybody wants to.
You
But
know they.
you go so far and down a spiral, and for a lot of people there's no way of coming back. You preach, you have your own church.
Well, actually, on one of the past, we have a senior pastor, and it's Living Waters out of Chino. They hired me just to be in the prisons, and they hired me just to do the streets, the prisons, and occasionally I go in churches to preach. We have a senior pastor, and then we have a couple other pastors that are around the church. Our church is pretty big, and my pastor was looking for somebody to be like and go to prisons. And when he met me, I've been there for like 34 years. And when he met me, he said, Robert, you're the guy. I'll support you. And then they hired me, like I said, about 18, 19 years ago. And I quit my job. And all I've done for this manner of time is just travel and preach the word of God.
And I know wherever you go, especially now getting back into the lowrider community, you do travel. You go to all kinds of different shows. You got a brand new trailer. Your bomb, which we have to talk about right now, is one of a kind. But I mean, you go out there and meet people, and just to know you, like I met you one time at Gumby's,
Yes.
and he had a body shop, paint restorations on bombs, and I was gonna do a video on him, and I was there, and then I met you, and it was pretty cool, and we got to a little bit of conversation, and then just before it ended, you told me that you were a minister, and I go, wow, and then you told me some of the stories, and I thought right away, I went back to the office, told the publisher then, hey, you know what? I've got a minister for lowrider role models for Quaker State at that time. I think this can work on and become a real good story, and it has.
Yes.
So to get to know you, who you are, it's all about bombs, lowriders. You travel, you got a trailer, you do this and that's award-winning car. You build your display. I seen it almost takes 2 days to do it. They're just going to know you as Robert Frias and the Black 46
Yes.
until they sit down with you, and then you get into the subject of religion, and then they really turn around and respect and appreciate who you are in the lowrider community and that crowd, even during the shows and everything. Do you open yourself up?
Oh, yeah.
Are
Most
those that
definitely.
are, you'll find that there's some guys that just can't get out of that rut, or women and men that want to get out, and
Yeah. Sometimes, like at a show,
they'll ask for help?
we were in a show in Arizona, and husband and wife came to me and my wife, and they shared the heart with us, and we prayed for them right then and there. So at times they know that I'm a minister because you know I'm a minister. I've been
Yeah.
around a while, and even like today, my wife name's Luce. She called somebody that their son almost was murdered last night. So she said, Robert, I'm going to call so and so. So she called the wife just to kind of comfort her. And so every time we go to a show, most people know that I'm a minister, especially when we did Lowrider Garage. Um, when now I go to shows, I'll say, "Hey, you're the minister, huh?" Yeah, I'm the minister. So it's kind of opened up a lot of doors.
That's good. Real good. Speaking about doors, let's open up the doors on your Fleet Master, right?
Yes.
Tell me about it. So, going back to World War II, about the bombs, first of all, why are they called bombs in your perspective?
In my
Because you
perspective,
own one,
yeah, if you look at the military in the 40s when they would drop the bombs,
right?
okay, they sell a few of them now, but them bombs, the reason why they call the 40s bombs in the 30s is because if you look at the bomb itself, it's shaped like a 46 Chevy, basically, a
Right.
48, 47 Chevy. It's designed that way. So that's the reason why they first started calling them bombs.
So, there's no 42, 43, 4, 5. While there were some, you were saying,
Yes.
give us some history on the bombs because of the war we were into, World War II. We didn't make cars anymore. We had to make weapons, right?
Yeah. In 42, when they bombed Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
our factories turned into military factories. There is a few 42s, but those 42s that they made were only made for the military. I've never seen that many of them. So from 42 to 45, there was no cars really being made. From 42, 43, 44, 45, there was no cars being made. 46, what they did with the 46 Chevy is that since the last year was a 42, okay, what they did is they took the body style from a 42 and they put it on a 46. And they basically just changed a few little things because after the war, they started production again in 46. They didn't have the molds, so they used the 42 mold, made it a 46, and just did some minor adjustments. So if you look at a 42 and 46, they similar a lot like, except for the grill, because the 42 grill is different than a 46. But they had time to do that. And when you were to buy a 46, a lot of times it wouldn't come with a back seat because they just got back in production. It wouldn't come with a radio. That car, the 42, is the only car in the United States. I'll say it one more time. It's the only car in the United States, probably one of the rarest cars as a Chevy, because when they built that car, because of the shortage of the materials, the license plate only has one license plate on that car. No other time in the history of our country, a car has one license plate, and it's black and white. So if you see a black and white car today that has a black and white plate, it's basically not original plate. They laminated, and the 40,
So that's from all the states.
all the states,
When you bought that car, it came with a black and white license plate only.
black and white.
Okay.
Okay, I know California for sure.
Hmm.
And when you bought them, it would come out with cowhide because shortage of materials. It would come out with a hard back of like cardboard
Hmm.
and metal because of shortage of materials. And what they did is they took the license plate from a 42 and now they have a tab on it, which is a 46 because of shortage of materials. And that 46 is called the victory car because that's the first year after World War II, Chevy started making a car. And if you look on the hood, it has a V for victory. Inside the car on the dashboard has American flag. So there's a big history to the car because of the year it's made.
That's crazy in those times. You have to wonder, like, if that happened in the year 2000 up until now, 5 years, no cars.
Exactly.
So if you have something that's 1998, you have to make it last for about 5, 6, 7 years, right? Until they start building them again.
Yes.
When they started building them again, what is the history there? I mean, they had to make a lot of them because everybody
Well, don't
needed
forget,
cars.
it was shortage of materials.
Yeah.
So they didn't make that many 46s because, today we make millions of them probably. But in that day, since the shortage of materials, because all the materials went to the military, ships, guns, weapons, jeeps, I mean, you name it. So when they made the 46, they didn't make as many 46s as they made 47s and 48 because they had just started building and they only had so much material to build a car. That's why that car's even rarer because of they're limited. There's not that many 46s.
Crazy. And then when 47, 48s came along, they started to catch up.
They started to catch up. They built more and more and more because now they're getting materials and more materials for the automobile. One thing with the 40, like the 46, 7, and 8s, when they built those cars are the ones that came out with the most accessories than the 30s. 30s were limited with accessories. But when you get a 46, 7, or 8, it's like nothing but jewelry on it. So when we built that 46 that we had, like I share with you, probably that car right now is about 98% original, even the motor's original on it.
Did they change the motors? Production changed the motors? Faster, bigger,
You could
from
change it.
42 to 46?
It was
Was there a difference?
no, because it
No.
was a 216 motor.
Yeah.
They
It
didn't
just
come out with
stayed
a
the same.
235 until like the 50s.
So there's not that many, when it comes to lowriders, bombs, there's not that many 46s in.
No,
Very few of them.
there's more 47s and 8s,
Yeah.
because the reason of that is the materials. There's some out there though, but there's not as many as 47s and 48s.
You have all kinds of memorabilia you display around that car, and you're happy to tell everybody that comes up, appreciates the display and everything you have. The car itself is a very nice looking car compared to the 47s and 48s. If they didn't change too much the styles. I've seen you at all the shows, like I said, traveling around. Um, a lot of money goes into that, the display and the time, just besides the car too. It's just not building a bomb and bringing it back to life the way yours looks. The traveling back and forth, the trailers, the tires, the bearings, all of that stuff. You like traveling because you meet different people.
I love traveling because in the lower industry, it's like a family, really.
Yeah.
I can go to Colorado. I know people in Colorado. It's like, hey, where you been? We hug each other.
Yeah.
I can go to New Mexico, same thing. I can go to Arizona. I can go to Northern California. Um, you just know so many people because in the lower industry, we become more of a family, and which is good because you don't see somebody for a year and you go back to that show. It's like you never missed each other.
There's a lot of cost to it, not just building a car. Trailers. Um, you've been traveling for a lot, preaching the good word. If
Yes.
if if it allows you to,
Mhm.
if it's needed. Um, tell me the story about the trailer. Where were you coming out of?
The trailer that I wrecked.
Because everybody's got stories of
Yeah.
trailers.
I got a story. I was coming back from we were coming back from maybe Colorado or something, and I'm with
From
my
a car
partner.
show.
Yeah, my partner, and I seen a bridge that was built like in the 1930s, and we kind of lost each other. And I go, he went through that bridge. No, he didn't go through that bridge. He went there. I went into that bridge. I hit the top of the trailer. It disconnected my truck, the hitch. The trailer tongue went down, smashed the floor. My truck and trailer got stuck in this bridge, and they called the high patrol. They called the city. Um, it was a mess. We had to flatten all the truck tires and roll out with rim and flatten the trailer tires. And when the trailer fell and the tongue hit, it disconnected my wires so the car moved, and it smashed the side of the car. And it was a nightmare. We finally, about 2, 3 hours later,
Which car was this?
the 46.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and but it comes with you have to love what you're doing because there's things that happen, and that was my ignorance. But you know what? You live and learn. So now when I go under the bridge, I'm more careful to make sure it's
Read
high
that
enough.
little numbers up there on the top. Yeah. Well, there you
Yes.
go.
Hmm.
But you got a brand new trailer now,
Yes.
and you go to all the different shows.
Mhm.
You pack up and go out. I was just talking to you earlier. You got to go to Chicago. Denver's, it's a whole different community. As you travel, even New Mexico, it's a different world of low riding. There's a
Yes.
lot of love and respect, more than as soon as you pass the California state line, everybody's more sincere, more different, more welcoming,
Exactly.
and it's nice. It's a good cleansing of the soul sometimes when you get out there and you meet different people.
Just to travel is just you have your car.
Yeah.
When we travel, when a show's over with, I'll stay like 1 or 2 days. Like we're in Vegas at the Super Show in Vegas.
Right.
We stood like 3 days extra. I went up to the Hoover Dam.
Uh-huh.
We pulled our cars out of the Hoover Dam. We drove them over the Hoover Dam.
Oh,
We
cool.
parked them, and the Chinese people were there. They literally ran just to look at the car. They
Wow.
ran. They took pictures of it. So it's really a neat thing because I just don't go to a show and come home. I'll spend 2 or 3 days. I'll take the car out. We'll go to another show there that's in the day at nighttime. Or we'll go and we'll go to dinner in it there. So every time we go somewhere, we always take it out in like Vegas. You go on the strip. The show's over. The next day there's a cruise. We usually go on the cruise.
You're pretty well known amongst all the different car clubs and car builders when it comes to bombs out there because you have a special year and everybody has to respect that. Um, with all the different clubs, and I hear all their stories about what it takes to build a car like that. Uh, and you meet all these different people. What are you went to Denver, Colorado. What's the farthest you've gone?
Boy, that's really hard to say. Probably the farthest I've gone. Oh boy.
Because you put a lot of, how much have you spent? I shouldn't ask you that.
Well, I
How
told my
much have you spent in
yeah,
gasoline, you thinking about a year doing a tour, going from show to show?
I figure when I leave from my house to say Denver,
Yeah.
Colorado Springs, round trip's going to cost about $1,000 to $1,200 because every 2 hours you have to fill up. Unfortunately, my wife said, "Is we have a leak in the tank?"
Mhm.
No, it's just the way it works. You have to love it. And so
You,
I added up 1 year, and I told my wife, I said, we probably spend about $10,000 in a year just traveling.
on what? Just fuel
No,
or
fuel,
hotel?
hotels, dinner, accessories. You buy things. So you have to love what you have to love it in order to do it. And by really just the grace of God, I'm not a millionaire or nothing, but I'm an average person that just works. But I've been fortunate enough to go to shows. I've been fortunate enough to have a little bit of money in my pocket to build a car, and
There's a lot of appreciation and gratitude for a car like what you build.
mhm.
And that's for everybody out there that does travel, builds a car where it takes you 5, 10 years, 50,000,
Yeah.
100,000. You take your car out there, and that's the great part. What I tell all my guys too is we got to get out, man. We got to go out there and explore.
Mhm.
There are people out there that know more about you and your car than your neighbor does across the street. You'd be surprised, and they're more genuine, more humble, right?
Well, you know what? Coming from, just say we're coming from California.
Right.
Anytime you go to a Denver show, an Arizona show, a New Mexico show, um, a Northern show, or wherever you go, Reno show, really we're respected everywhere we go, any state we go to, because it just seems like everybody just loves California. When you bring your car from California to another state, they really appreciate it.
Yeah, they welcome you there.
It's like you're a celebrity because you're traveling all the way, and they totally respect you for bringing your car. And then you see a different kind of style of cars they build and the kind of cars we build, but it's all in a family.
And it's like, all the car show promoters out there, it takes a lot to put on a show. It's a roll of a dice. It could rain that day. The cost of the venues are ridiculous. And I could say that from the inside looking out, but on the outside looking in, you cannot, and I've told my cars here and there too, not as much as you to go do a whole tour, just putting a car on display and then
Yeah.
having to take it down and a few hours later that show's over now, all that work, all the time and effort that goes into it. People, even the fans that come in and appreciate your car, they have to understand and respect what it takes and never take it for granted. Oh, I got 800 cars into my show and they're the best or that. It's not that. You have to appreciate, and it goes both ways because everybody says, oh, the promoters of the car shows are making money. No, not all the time. They're not.
Exactly.
And they could lose everything at
Mhm.
one time, but you can never forget first. And it's with anything. Why have a TV if you don't have the right actors or the right entertainers? Without the cars, there is no car show. And you have to take a lot of steps back and look at it. and understand what you have to go through, especially if you have to. I don't care if you got to only go 50 miles to 100 miles. It's all the effort and everything to tie down that car. You better have insurance. You got to put fuel in. Not just any truck is going to pull that trailer.
Exactly. Yeah.
The axles, the bearings, the tires. Oh, I let my trailer out. My friend brought it back, and there's a nail, and you get stuck, stranded out on the road. You don't go to work the next day, and you did it all for the love of low riding and the car shows. And of course,
Exactly.
cruising's all important too. But until everybody realizes, all of us together, that those 700 cars that go into an event, whether it's outside or inside, the dues that they have to pay for maybe a little plastic trophy or a little award,
Yeah.
like you were just saying earlier, you put on your wall, and after a while, what are you going to do with all these? They have their memories, but you throw them away. But it's the people. And if you're in a car club, what you do it for the rest of the club to represent your city, that
Exactly.
club's name.
Mhm.
But to get out there,
Mhm.
spend that money and time, and the sacrifices you have to make for every show, 400 or 500, and they do it again and again. And everywhere you go, it's a different crowd of builders, customizers, restorers that come out and bring something that they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
now and years, and put it on a floor and put rope around it, and they make that show and they draw that
Yeah.
crowd. And then for the promoter, you throw that dice and you hope. But we can never ever, and that's, I know the crowd that comes in, pays a ticket to see your car, they recognize. But for promoters, even I think the judges out there see this, what you got to go through. And then after a while, you got to think, man, that guy's crazy to travel 1,000 miles
Yeah.
and pay all that for
Mhm.
what? And he has a nice car. He took third place. It's like, and the next thing you know, a month later, here you are again, and you did an 800-mile trek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to recognize that,
Yeah.
especially today.
In my trailer, the one we built, I put a toilet in it. I put air condition in it. So when we're traveling, um, if my wife has to go to the restroom, I just pull over. She can go to the restroom. She washes her hands. If we're at a show and she gets hot, I'll just put the air conditioner on in the trailer. She could sit in there and relax. And that's the reason why we bought the trailer, because we travel so much that it's good to travel somewhat in the best luxury you can have. And then when we go to a show to unload a trailer, sometimes I'll unload it by myself. And
I've been there in Odessa when I helped you with
yeah, I
that
remember.
big
Yeah,
gas
yeah.
tank you
You
had.
wheeled
I,
that
s-
gas
I
tank.
thought I was still working on the truck those days. I went over and said,
uh,
I'll help you. I got
yeah,
that for
yeah.
you. Had
Uh,
to go up that ramp, got that hand truck, picked up that. I didn't know it weighed that much. You have to balance it. Man, I barely made it without anybody watching me, huffing and puffing, and loaded in there and said, that's one hell of a man to bring this. I would never bring that out ever again.
yeah.
It's heavier than a turntable.
Yeah, it's exactly a
You have a
46.
fueling pump. You have that duct. You
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff, though.
The Daffy Duck, it's one of the rarest ducks because it's actually a real Warner brother from Disneyland.
Right.
They only built, I believe it was 30 of them in the 30s, and they talk. They would put them in their stores for selling glasses or something. I went into a store one day up in Victorville, and I found it in there. It was buried in the back. And I told the guy, "You want to sell that?" He goes, "No, I don't even know where I got it from." But when I was coming back from the Super Show in Vegas, I pulled over it with my car, showed it to him, and he goes, "Hey, call me next week and I'll give you a price on it." He called me. I went and bought it from him, not knowing what I bought. Because that Daffy Duck right now, if I'm not mistaken, they go from anywhere from, I believe it's 10,000 to 25,000 just for that duck.
He's not just Daffy Duck though. What is he? Is he wearing a hat? He has luggage. What is it that he has on him?
He's like on a sewer.
It's about this tall.
Yeah,
It's pretty badass.
yeah, and has that suitcase is where they used to put the glasses in there
Uh huh.
at the stores,
Okay.
and it would talk. And then the hat is more of a gangster, like we're talking about the bombs. What does
Yeah,
bomb
yeah, it
represent?
goes with it.
Gangster. And when I seen that, I go, "Oh, we got to buy this."
You've won a lot of awards for that car,
Yes.
even despite the judging.
Hmm.
I mean, you just gave us history right now about they didn't make any cars for 5 years. And for a judge to come in and just look at a beautiful black bomb, beautiful interior, it's in very good condition. He's got to go down the line, and there's a couple more following that.
Hmm.
If they don't drive one or understand the history, it's hard. and you try to get judges that know their bombs, but we don't know everything. So there's going to be sometimes there's going to be mistakes made. Do you talk to the judges and explain what's rare on your car, what
Yeah, once
accessories
in a
you have?
while, if I'm there and they're judging, I'll go up there and ask them.
Are you there to win?
You know what, Joel? I don't know if there's. I'm there to win. Okay, I am there to win. But if I don't win, it's not about just winning. It's about having a good time. It's always good to come on with the trophy. Even like you said, they're only square. They what do they pay? Maybe at the most $5 for the trophy.
You would go out with your wife and sit an entire show, wipe down the car, hang out,
Yeah.
people come up and talk to you.
Mhm.
You'd see walks of all different lives out
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
You ever take any of your friends with you
Yes.
and they would do the same thing and they would never ask you? We went through all of this for this whole weekend
Yes.
to sit here and if you're that's not your music, the shows could be boring,
They
but
could.
we're having the time of our
Yes.
lives whether
Mhm.
anybody walks up to your car or not, right? You
Yes.
have to explain that, or do they get it, or you just don't bring them around next time?
No, I explain it to them.
Yeah,
Most time they don't say too much,
yeah.
but like I'll give you a good story here, man. This is a tremendous story. I was in Arizona Super Show, and Chaplain Lee, he's a chaplain in the prison there, and he loves cars. His wife don't like cars, so he convinced her to come, and she was sick, and she seen a car, Joe, and the car on the wheel it had said, "I don't fear no more." She read that, Joe. She started crying, and she told her husband, "I'm well now, just because I read that on that car." Nobody knows the impact cars make in people's lives. I shared with you with my wife. She's never been in a car before.
Right.
I picked her up one day. I was dating her. I picked her up. She goes, "Robert, I've never been in a bomb." I took her to the hat. I got I dropped it. We ate. Got back in that car. Put the radio on. She started singing. She says, "Robert, I've never experienced nothing like this in my life. I'm in another world." I go, "Have you never been in a car?" She goes, "I've never been in nothing like this in my
What kind of
life."
music were you playing? Is
Tierra,
it in that era only?
Tierra.
It's only allowed to play that?
I was playing Tierra.
Maybe Frank's. Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, you know what I
I
mean?
know they weren't there in the 40s, but
No.
that's cool.
Yeah. So now what we do is like she gets the itch, I get the itch. Let's go to dinner. Come on. You know, it's magic. Really, if you get in a lowrider, any car, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2000, 25, it's magic.
Yeah, but if you get in a 76 Caprice and go down the road, you're going to get that look, or a Grand Prix. But when you're in something that's that old, a bomb, it's like you got to do your homework and think, what is that? You got to double neck it sometimes to see a bomb pull up. And then in front of a restaurant, just the gangster, the aura of the
Yeah.
whole thing. It's beautiful.
It's just words kind of explain if I'm gonna go through like a hard I would say hard time. If I'm having a bad day,
Yeah.
maybe it's a week. We all
Yeah.
have those.
Yeah.
I'll get in that car and I'll just drive on the freeway and put the music on, and my life stops. I don't think about nothing because people in the low riding business, they know what I'm talking about. It's magic.
With all the influences, especially divine intervention that you've had in your life, do you have anybody out there that you like to give a shout out to, be grateful, thankful for where you're at today?
You know what? I would love to give a shout out. I love to give a shout out to the forefathers like you.
Mm-hmm.
You and um, all the forefathers that started this years ago. Because Joe, you've been around a while. When we first started low riding, it was a bad thing. You would get pulled over, we'd get tickets. Uh, but look at now where we're at today.
Yeah.
Cops have low riders. The prison officers have low riders. Chinese have. I mean, our culture of the lowrider industry, we've really reached the world. Who would ever thought we'd be reached the world? I've never thought in my life. So I give a shout out to everybody that was before me that went through the struggles, the hard times, and they stuck with it. For what? For to 2025, or where you mean you sit today, we can talk. We can look back And we look back today, how far we've come. And everything paint, chroming, hydraulics, bags.
I got to get you back on here with Larry, the bomb doctor. He couldn't make it today, man. A great guy. He's not doing well, but he's getting stronger. He's getting
Yes.
better. You mentioned all the forefathers, and a lot of them have left us, but they paved the trail to where we are today, and it is a beautiful time now in lowriding.
They
And
beautiful
we
time.
all get along,
Mhm.
and maybe God knew this. God's a lowrider. He knew
Yes.
this was a journey, and eventually down the road, you're going to be able to get out there and touch other people's lives and change them. Low riding's good. A family that stays together, low rides together. I always
Exactly.
say that. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a great. There's no barriers
Yeah.
in low riding, and religion too. It is like a
Yeah.
religion, but without the man up there, I
Mhm.
don't think we'd ever finish some of our car builds today, right?
All my kids love low riding. All my grandkids love low riding. I call my daughter on the way here. She goes, "Dad, I would have went with you. Why didn't you call me?" Because she loves cars. All my kids love cars. I raised them in that.
A quick shout out for me, George Ramirez. You lost your son, man. He did a couple favors for us. I last remember him for the Super Show, brought somebody over for the airport, drop of the dime, did that favor. George, I know you were there. He just lost his son. Nobody
Yes.
should ever bury their son. No father should. George, I'm letting everybody know that, man. You don't, if I can't understand what you're going through, but that's why I'm bringing this up, man.
Yes.
May you get stronger. Your son will always be there and guide you along too in your journey. Um, how do we get a hold of you? God bless you, George. How do we get a hold of you
My
out there?
number, I can give you my number if you want my
If you
number.
want to, if anybody would
Yeah.
like to contact you, where is your church at? If they would
Living
like to.
Waters in Chino,
Okay, in Chino.
California. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, my number is 909-322-6001.
Great. Well, there you go. I need you to come back on. We'll get Larry here and we'll talk about bombs. He's a medic.
Yes.
He's the bomb doctor himself, and we'll get into it more under the hood and everything else. And he's touched, like you have, a lot of people. He's touched their cars. So we'll do that on another segment down the line. I need you here more because I feel that this episode, out of all of them, we're kind of like more blessed. In fact, when we come to a close, we'll pray for all the lowrider fans out there
Definitely.
and for the Wired Down podcast show.
Yeah.
Robert Frias. Special guest right here. So there you go, everybody. We come to a close with another episode of the Wired Down Show. We are blessed here, and I'll catch everybody down the road on the next Wired Down podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.